Salutations, Red Zone, and welcome in to the Main Event Podcast. My name's Warren. How's everybody doing? College Football 26 is on the horizon. We're just about a month out. I think the 9th is when people early are going to get their hands on it. Maybe even before that. But
just a month out.
Yeah, it's close. We're getting there, and the rock standing at the top of the entrance, the goosebumps are on the arm as we are excited to get things going again. But as you can probably tell, we're going to talk a little bit about last cycle, the first cycle of RZNCAA, 9 seasons deep. And I got the commissioner team in here. Cave, IJ, fellas, how are we doing?
Terrible.
Beautiful, man. I'm getting ready for this cycle. I'm preparing myself. We a month out, trying to get all ducks in a row and make sure we get off to another hot start like last year.
I think we'll have a couple questions. We'll talk about the last cycle, the ups, the downs, everything in between. Maybe we'll even talk about expectations for the new cycle. We do have some fresh blood that came in towards while we were doing this extra season and anticipation for the start of cycle number 2 for RZNCAA. But yeah, and then listen, chime in on anything. And also, I had my hands on the beta, and I played a game with Longville earlier today. So if you guys have any questions for me, we'll even talk about that a little bit later. But let's start off at the top. My first question, and I'm gonna start with IJ because I love talking about this with IJ. From the start of this cycle and where we were this time last year, and we might have even seen the blog by then, but just the start of the cycle before we got our hands on the game and the expectations that you had for what we were going to do. What were those expectations, and where did they land by the end of the cycle? Did we meet them? Did we exceed them, and whatnot?
Man, I mean, I gotta say, we definitely exceeded. There's no. It's well known that, especially before we started the RZNCAA Discord, when we were all over in the main RZ chat, if you will, which at the time was the only RZ chat. There were a lot of doubters, and I don't even mean to say that to sound corny or anything like that, but it was very much like the usual EA bad. They're not going to get this right. And don't get me wrong, I don't need to defend a multi-billion-dollar corporation, right? I don't need to defend EA. But for folks like myself, like you, like Commissioner Cave, like Jim, even though he's no longer a part of the league for now, it was always optimism. Just the fact, and I'll speak for myself, like I said it in the chat, I didn't need, anything extravagant. I needed a college football game with a functioning online dynasty where I could recruit against other people and play games. That's it. I really didn't need much more than that. You give me that and I will be happy. I didn't need anything flashy. I didn't need anything, crazy. I just needed a new college football game, flat out. And I think that, what they gave us exceeded my expectations personally. I was not expecting, the amount of detail to pageantry that they gave us. I wasn't expecting a wear and tear system. We can definitely talk about whether or not that was implemented properly or how effective it may have been. But even in, just in theory, like That's something that I've always wanted in a football game. You know, we previously talked about, you know, how 2K has the like injury history for players and how lingering injuries will come back up. I would like to see, you know, that expanded upon in wear and tear. But like when we just talk about the product that we got last July, and then taking that product that we were given and feeding into our league, right? And the experience that we were able to have. Like I just said a few minutes ago, we want to get off to another hot start. The fact that we were able to get 9 seasons out of this is, to me, an incredible success. That means that the product itself did what it needed to do. That means that the people that we brought into this league are ready to contribute and ready to be, you know, active and present league members. And then again, just the length of time that we got to play in this league and kept everyone engaged was incredibly successful. Like we did what we needed to do. Everyone was excited. And I think that the college game, just in and of itself, lends itself to being a little bit more exciting, you know, than the pro game. This is not me comparing, you know, our league to RZ Madden or anything like that. But I think just, you know, the prospect of people, you know, getting new coaching offers, the roster turnover every couple of years, like it keeps things fresh. And I think that's why, you know, it's maybe a little bit easier to have success in that way. But I think that, you know, our first cycle was an incredible success. I'm really thankful for everybody that participated. We are all adults. We all got shit to do. Half of us got kids. Some of us got grandkids. We got families we got to take care of. But the fact that we can all come together and spend this time in this league and do what we did this past cycle is incredible. And I'm thankful for everybody that took part in it.
I think a lot of the doubts that were said across the way in Mayne RZ chat came from a place where I had been back in RZ. This 25 was the 4th Madden that I've been back with RZ. And the stuff that we've had to fight through, my first cycle back, we had to restart after like 7 weeks in the first season because they added what is now the scouting and draft process. The second cycle was when it got shut down and we lost the franchise around Christmas and had to start over again. So we got about 3 seasons in and had to start all over again. And we ended up redoing teams and whatnot. Disconnects. There were a zillion things that were going on with Madden to where a lot of the doubt and hesitation that people had with college was 100% warranted. And nobody would have predicted what the game itself became once it dropped last July, and also all of the stuff that was in it. That you mentioned wear and tear, you mentioned the new, or you didn't mention new passing system, you were talking about that in chat, but the new passing system, and then slowly a lot of those 2 things specifically are making their way to Madden. The passing system came about midway through last cycle. I think wear and tear is going to get added in some way, shape, or form. Things that were just coming up in NCAA, all of a sudden now are adding to Madden and making Madden a much better experience too. Cave, what are your thoughts on that?
Far as what were my thoughts on what?
Your expectations at the beginning of the cycle and then where they landed by the time we finished 9 seasons.
I'm gonna say this. I had very high expectations. I've been playing NCAA since I was a little boy with my little brother. I say my little brother, we're the same damn age. With my brother. To me, in my opinion, since I was little, those games always had a more fresher feel. You guys remember like the impact players, little different things like that kind of separated from Madden. I think it helps as well. They don't have the big dogs, the CEOs, the overseers, you know, that's counting every penny, mutt. I really wasn't worried, and I'm probably the most pessimistic person you're ever going to meet just going through life and shit like that. They picked up the crew that did the revamp, so I was happy with seeing that. So some of their moves that I was watching them make, I was like, you know what, I was kind of bought in from the beginning. Mostly what I was worried about was the limits on online dynasty. I was a little bit worried about that before we had only 16 teams on 14. So for them to crank it up to 32, I was through the roof with that. They've met my expectations. They've done a lot. I was happy. I will say this. I will say I don't really think the chatter on the game is going to be bad really came from because Madden is bad, because those people that were saying that the college football game wasn't going to be this and that, like Madden, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like that it was like, okay, well, this Madden is bad, college football has to be bad, right? It was kind of like, oh, this Madden is good, we just dealing with some BS. I just think college football is going to be bad. But we end up getting all the bells and whistles, whatever the case may be. It helps out both games, whatever. The league definitely exceeded my expectations. Even some of the little storylines that we've had all the way up until season 7, we didn't have anybody with 2 championships. That was kind of huge. All of the movement that was going around, the gameplay, people were playing with different styles. This has probably been the most I've enjoyed myself in anything online, in my opinion. This cycle was fantastic. So you guys exceeded my expectations for sure. But EA, they were kind of, I believed in them, and I hate that damn company. But I just know that their teams are typically a little bit more locked in for whatever reason. I also think, too, the fan bases are a little bit different. The college fan bases, they're not taking that 3-year plan, 4-year plan shit. It will riot. You know what I'm saying? All last year, only thing I heard was dynamic lighting. Me personally, I don't give a fuck. But that was something that they were pushing for it. They were on the devs' ass 24/7, and we got dynamic lighting. You know what I'm saying? The Madden crew were like, well, next year, maybe we'll get it next year, maybe this and that. It's like, it's just a little different. So I definitely, I had my faith in the crew more so than just EA, the company did. So
you mentioned dynamic lighting. And then I think the thing for Madden that they always were clamoring for, halftime shows. Voila, we get dynamic lighting. Madden is going to have some kind of a halftime show. We'll see if it pertains to what we do in an online setting or if it's just for an offline setting. But they have been, especially with College 25, and I played Madden. I like playing Madden, especially in our setting. But if I was randomly just going to play like a random online, whether it was online ranked or the playoff mode for college, I was turned on college every single time. I didn't enjoy as much the on the field stuff. I didn't enjoy it as much in Madden as I do on college football. Whether that's the zillions of different styles you can play. I felt like Madden was heavier, and power backs were just like the move on that in Madden, to where you can do almost whatever. You can have a power back, you can have a speed back, and you don't feel like you're at a disadvantage in college football. Next question. Was there anything that you wanted to implement, whether it was a rule or even content, that you did not get a chance to do this cycle? Let's start with Cave this time.
Anything that we wanted to implement? No, I think for the most part, I will say it helped out a lot. We had the little mini RZNCAA League with like 8 of us on like Xbox 360, so we kind of went through a bunch of rules. Then the first season dropped before we even started. A lot of the league members were like, hey, this doesn't make sense, so we got rid of a lot of stuff already. So I think, after that first season or two, I'm like, okay, I think our rule book was in a good spot for the most part. No, I really don't. I really don't think so. Just in my opinion, to be honest.
Okay. What about you, IJ?
Yeah, there's honestly not much that I can think of. We had a pretty solid idea of what we wanted this league to be, right? I think as we kind of learned the game more and learned what it was not. Obviously we tweaked some things, we adjusted things based on what we were given. Um, but I can't think of any rules that we necessarily wanted to implement and just did not do so or were not able to do so. Honestly, with the way the league is set up now, this is kind of exactly what we pictured. And again, like I said, tweak some things here and there to fit kind of what the game is. For example, um, perfect example I can give of that is with recruiting. We wanted to limit it to like your top, I think it was top 8 or so recruits, or you had to be like in the top 8 teams in order for you to be able to recruit a certain player. But like at a certain point, especially early in recruiting, right, it already cuts off the top 8. So like we didn't necessarily need to set that limit because if you weren't in the top 8, you weren't going to be able to recruit them anyway. So things like that, when we started understanding the game, understanding again what it was not, allowed us to adjust and really fit the mold of what we wanted RZNCAA to be.
And plus, with the level of teams that we're starting at, I mean, even last year, I know we had some outliers with Sick up in Boise. My guys at San Jose State were mid 70s, and I know other people. I know IJ, you had what, the worst team in the whole 134, right, with Akron.
Yeah, I think Akron was probably next to worst. Probably like
if it wasn't
maybe Kennesaw
I think it was
State
Ball
and
State.
Sam Jackson were
if it
Ball
was
State, Kennesaw State.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
if it wasn't Akron, it was Ball State for sure. But I think for our starting point, the handcuff for recruiting was, I guess, just kind of built in with where we were at, and there were going to be very few people that were going to come off the rip and get, I'd say, even 4 stars, regardless of where their interest was, even if their interest started in the top half of their big board. So I think that works out. Was there any content that you guys wanted to try and do, and just with how fast we were moving with weeks and like, listen, we got through 9 seasons. I can't remember. I don't think there's been a time when I've been in Red Zone Madden that we've gotten through 9 seasons. Any content that you guys wanted to try and get out or do more of, and just with the pace of everything, just weren't able to fit it in?
I'll go first. I'll say I think we did have a pod for a little bit. That shit sounded good until we was like in like week 7 and like the first week maybe. I think it was something crazy like that. I was like, bro, we can't keep up with this shit. Like we were moving too fast. So I think definitely pumping out more pods was something that we were kind of planning on doing. But I mean, everybody was on top of their shit, getting their games in. We were advancing fast. It was kind of hard to keep up, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I can think of, and this, I mean, not necessarily doesn't fit the last question, but something that, I wanted to implement, and I had talked to Cave about this well before, we got like release information, game details, anything. One piece of content / media that I really wanted to do was I really wanted to do a live coach carousel show, right? So again, before we got details, I was kind of assuming that the coaching carousel would be similar to what it was, back in the day, back with NCAA 13, 14, etc., where it's done in real time. It is you select whether or not you want the job, you move on to the next one. You select whether you want that job, you move on to the next one. Like it happens very quickly, especially when you're playing solo. And I think that setup would have been ripe for us literally hopping on Twitch, talking on Discord, going through offers, reaching out to coaches. That would have been great for like a real time coach carousel off-season type show. But with the way it's set up, where it's basically async right now, where everyone gets offers during 1 week, and then the next week you might get a little bit different now. So that type of setup doesn't really work. But that's something that I would have loved to have done if that was the setup the game gave us.
Yeah, that definitely would have been, if it was like how it was in 13 and 14, that would essentially been how we do our rookie draft in RZ Madden, where we're all getting on, the 25, 30 of us are getting on to do it all at the same time. Do you guys have a favorite moment in the cycle, whether it was something through your teams that you went through or did, or that it belonged to somebody else?
I'll go first with this one. First thing that I can really think of is JP's run in season 1 with NIU.
100% was mine.
Yeah, like that's some shit that we definitely wanted to see, just because that's the type of, when you get a small school like that goes on a run, that brings excitement for everybody, because again, we're all starting off at the same level, right? So like you see that kind of David versus Goliath, which is very, very present in college football, that you don't really see with the pro game. The pro game is any given Sunday, right? Like that's the phrase. It's any given Sunday.
Sure.
You can win, you can lose on any Sunday. When it comes to college football, not so much. Saturdays, you look at the gambling lines for Saturdays, a lot of games are determined before anybody takes the field, right? Like you go on there, you're seeing fucking Bama versus Alcorn State, and Bama's plus 4,500 favorite, or minus 4,500. But either way, like when you see an NIU, going up against, who was it, Notre Dame that he played, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, it was Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame. Yeah, like when you see that, that's an exciting moment, and it's funny that it happened so early in the cycle, but it's still just like a standout moment in the cycle. And outside of that, honestly, I would say the other moment that just an exciting moment for me is when folks started getting job offers. It was really interesting to me to see how people would branch out, what conferences they would land in, and kind of the shakeup in terms of matchups, because you have, we had, I think, like 7 or 8 coaches in the American Conference. And then when people start branching out, you're going over here. Okay, so now I get to see this matchup. Now I get to see this coach versus this coach. And so it really just adds kind of an element of, I don't want to say uncertainty, but that change just makes, like I said, it keeps the league fresh. It keeps things, keeps it engaging. I would say, 5-6 seasons in, instead of, you stay with a team for a whole cycle, and after 4 or 5 seasons, you kind of know, like, okay, this might be a down cycle for me, right? Like there were plenty of times when I was in Madden, and I would just know, like, all right, this cycle is not going the way that I needed to, and the way I'm building my team is not going the way that I needed to. College football just brings that level of like, okay, we got folks going over here changing up, doing what they do over here. Remesu going from fucking Notre Dame to Oregon. It's like, oh, okay, I want to see what he does differently in terms of building his team, where he was at, Western Kentucky, then going to Notre Dame, and I believe he won a championship with Notre Dame, and then going to Oregon. Like, what does that look like? It's a journey, right? And so seeing people's journeys through the college landscape is exciting.
What about you, Cave?
I definitely gonna say JP, but I will say I think because I gave him a little shit for this, so I'll eat crow for it. It was definitely probably for me, who was Reed going to Wake Forest and winning the championship his first year there. That move was like, I was like, damn, why the hell did you take them? They kind of suck. You could have waited. And he took them. He beat Ernest, I believe, to get to the championship. He was kind of outmatched there because Ernest had Florida State. They were kind of juiced. I think he had the guy that had like 35 sacks in the season or whatever. So watching him do that was very big for me. Reed is my boy, and I was like, damn, he won it with Wake Forest, like off the rip. I think it was like season 3, I believe. So it's kind of damn near stock Wake Forest. You know they're not recruiting shit. So for him to win that was kind of big. I think Moji winning with Buffalo was big as well. He came in and did his thing. I think he won like his 2nd or 3rd season of him joining us. A big moment for myself, I have to say, it has to be when Longville posted that my score when I lost to Michigan and CPU, they blew me out. And he was like, we got to take care of our Big Ten brothers, and they won't post their scores. And then when I beat him with Rutgers, Penn State, to punch my ticket to go to the fucking playoffs, and I copied and pasted his message, kicked him out to playoffs. Like that, you cannot write a better script than that. Like, so I think that's just for me, probably my favorite moment for my.
For me, definitely JP. Because not only where we were at the start with the teams that we had, like IJ said, a team going on a run like that and getting into the playoff, huge. For it to happen for a guy like JP, who is universally loved throughout all of RZ, that was a big piece of it too. Gosh. I'm trying to think of a moment for myself. I don't know if I really have. I thought there was a game where I played Aston really close, but I can't remember if it was season 1. Season 1, I just looked. I pulled up on my YouTube. He won that one. I can't remember if he was still there season 2.
Sure.
Nah, he left. He left season 2, like week 2. Yeah, he was gone already.
Okay. You know, okay, so this wasn't a moment where I won a game. But me blowing up in the chat about sick was probably the moment for me this cycle. And I've never been one to do stuff like that. If I've ever had an issue with somebody regarding the gameplay, I would just go to them, in person. I did have an issue with Toff, and I brought it up to him and we talked about it. Because of a game we played on Madden. But me doing that, and I could have gone about it a much different way, but I reached that point that I never thought I would reach. And at least to my knowledge, from what I saw, and I still played him a handful of times even after that, or watched games of him playing teams in the playoffs and whatnot, I think he settled down and was a much better user than he was, at least early on. So I'm glad that he was able to adapt and adjust. Because I don't think he's necessarily, a terrible guy or anything. But that would, I'd say, would be my moment, even if it wasn't something that was necessarily a good tick on my my checkbox.
Go ahead, man. You can call me cheese balls if you want. It's your show.
No. I'm not that kind of that kind of guy.
On,
not that kind of guy.
Yeah, let's go. Let's turn it up. Let's 26 come on, man. Let's turn it up.
Nope. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be as Switzerland as possible with all this. Just neutral. That's where I'm trying to stay. Do you guys have a favorite player that you recruited?
Oh man,
Ooh, he put me in the spot.
man, what's my guy? You know what? I did have one. I'm trying to remember my guy's name. Give me a second. I recruited him when I was in Minnesota. Um, hold on, give me a second. Give me a second. I'm about to try and remember what his name was.
Mine is going to be Rashad Cummings. Oh, did he? The quarterback I had from Hawaii. He was pretty fucking good. He was an athlete. Kiss my ass. I don't care. He had like 94 speed, 93 speed, something like that. Big arm. He ended up being capped out, so he didn't have unlimited cap, so it wasn't nothing too crazy. But I did really like him. And then going to Rutgers, playing with other quarterbacks there, I was like, man, I really miss this guy. Like, I wish I had him, at Rutgers, something like that would probably be way different with his athletic ability. Throwing on a run, he had a beautiful arm, but like I said, he was just a kind of regular quarterback at the end of the day. By the time, his caps was there, I was like, But overall, he's probably like my most fun I've had with a player so far.
I would say I got two. I got two. My quarterback that I ended the cycle with, Bacella, was probably one. And I'm glad I was able to unlock his full capabilities with the offenses that I was running by the time I had him. I would have felt like I missed out if I was running the flex with him, even though he had option king, but I knew how well he could throw the ball. So I was glad I was in an offense that featured his skill set. And then there's a receiver that I have now that has been my favorite receiver. And if I had more time with him, he'd become a stud, even though like I said, I'm running a flex now in this extra season. Nigel Lewis, who was on his way to being the best receiver that I had, and probably would have broke the single season yards record or career yards record that another guy had. It was just a chuck and duck kind of guy. He was 97 speed and just got loose all the time. But those would probably be my two. You figure out his name, IJ?
Yeah, actually. So I was going through my old list of recruits, and he was a middle linebacker named Emmanuel Vick that I recruited whenever I got to Minnesota. Honestly, my favorite recruit because he was just fun to play with. I think he had something like 90 speed and 87 acceleration. He wasn't the best like block shedder. He wasn't, but he was just pure athleticism. So getting to the ball carrier on run plays as a user was very fun. But also, as I went through my couple years in Minnesota, he turned into, kind of a ball hawk almost. I mean, he was in the backfield at any given time. I could use her, a DB, a safety, whatever the case may be, to change it up for a play or two. And before I know it, he's in the backfield hitting the quarterback, hitting the running back, and that athleticism just jumped out. And so as we continued through the cycle, I kept recruiting and trying to find a player of the same mold, and could never ever find a linebacker that had those same attributes that I could kind of mold into that again. So he definitely stood out for me this cycle.
This is probably my favorite thing, and you kind of mentioned it when you were talking about your expectations, IJ. The roster turnover that's in college, where you've only got a guy for 4, maybe 5 years if there's a red shirt, and after that, and he goes on to the fictional NFL or graduates into something professional other than sports, and you'll just have a new crop of guys, and then you'll always want to have, like you said, a mold or an idea of the type of player that you want based on whatever your scheme is, and then it's fitting the guys that are available in recruiting into what you're looking for. That's always been my fascination across any of these NCAA games, is just all the players that you're recruiting, the different types of players, and now even looking ahead to 26, to where they're tinkering with the archetypes to now. First of all, they changed all the names. There's all different types of archetypes, and some are even crossing over to where, it's not specifically a power back. It's not specifically a red zone threat receiver or whatever it is. I put the list in the chat the other day, but there's all different kinds, and I think that's going to help. You're not going to always see all the same players, or maybe you're going to have to adapt to whatever scheme that you ran with your team 2 years ago doesn't necessarily fit the guys that I have in-house now. Am I going to try to fit a round peg in a square hole, or am I going to change to fit whatever's in the house? So that playbook draft that we do at the end of each season, definitely one of my favorite parts of the cycle, even if I'm not participating in it, but just to see how people are going to pivot around what they have in-house, what they have coming in, maybe just to change a pace. Instead of, Madden, you were changing playbooks a little bit in Madden, but it's more, I don't want to be a 4-3 team, I want to be a 3-4 team now. Or maybe I had 2 or 3 losing seasons, I need to change something up. It wasn't necessarily changing the whole scheme, because most of the stuff in Madden is all the same outside of maybe 5 or 6 books. The difference is then playbooks that CFB has is definitely a big selling point.
Yeah, for sure, and I think that's a good call out, especially like comparing it to what you might see like in Madden, right? The pro game is the pro game. Every team is trying to do similar things in different ways. If that makes any sense, right? Like the style of football, there's not too much difference ultimately in what's going to happen whenever those professional teams line up. Some teams might run more motion on offense, and try to scheme guys open. Other teams might just go, straight up and say, hey, our guys are going to try to beat your guys. But in the college game, and, I think I said this way back before we even started last cycle, one of the things that I was most interested in was seeing who was going to say, okay, this is my scheme, and I'm going to find the players to fit my scheme. And then who was going to say, I'm going to go get the best players I can, and I will change my coaching and my scheme to fit the talent that I have. And that, that still stands, right? Like, there are so many varieties. Even if your team is running the spread, there are a lot of teams that run a spread offense, but a lot of teams run it differently. You got some teams that run more of a power spread, right? They're incorporating the option into that shotgun offense. Perfect example. My early seasons at Akron and Minnesota, I ran a spread offense. I was bouncing back and forth between the Miami and LSU playbooks. So I was looking for fast receivers, guys who could get separation, receiving halfbacks, quarterbacks who had legs but could also, throw the deep ball. That completely changed when I went to Pittsburgh. I started looking for quarterbacks who were more of the improviser mold, somebody that could, hold their own under center and in the pocket. I started looking for more power backs, more elusive backs. I didn't want to throw to the running back as much. I started looking at more physical wide receivers. I need somebody who, if there's a one-on-one, let me throw up this jump ball and see if they go get it. I don't need them to burn the DB. I just need them to beat them, right? And so it's really interesting seeing those changes and seeing how you adapt as a coach to the types of players that you can recruit, the types of players that are available for you to recruit, if we're being honest, and how you build your team around that, and then whether or not success comes. And for me, that's really where I find my love of college football compared to my love of professional football. It's in that styles make fights, and you just see a bigger variety of styles when it comes to the college game.
For sure. Cave, what you got?
I'll piggyback a little bit of what he said. That's definitely my most favorite thing. And I think last cycle, for the most part, we've captured that. We had some people that were like, "Hey, you know what? I'm playing in Madden. I'm just gonna run pro style. That's what I don't want to run that college shit," which is fine. I like that. Then you like towards the end, we had like Baker running his stuff. I think I told you before, like when we played, I didn't know how to defend that slow mesh shit. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I wasn't ready for it. Nobody's ever ran it. I don't even think I've even played another team that ran that after that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, in college, you might see a team once. We're not division rivals. I might not see you. The schedule might skip. I might not see you for another season or so. Like, so when I'm going against that, now when I'm seeing you, I'm like, all right, I'm ready for Warren ass. You want some whole other shit now, you know? So I did like seeing that. I think, you know, I could probably draw up the different schemes and put some of our users in there, like air raid, kind of airing it out. That's probably like KJ, pro style, Jake, Dale, JP, multiple offenses. I think Pruitt bounced around. I'm a veer and shoot guy. It's just like, it was nice seeing a lot of that mix and match styles. I even think too that helped out a lot as far as watchability goes, because you never know with going into certain games. I'm seeing users versus user, right? And I'm like, well, we really don't have, you know, because this is college football, it's wide open. There's no pass limit or running limit. So I'm like, you want to run it 60 times? Let's see, you know. So it kind of made it very exciting to watch a lot of the games, seeing different styles. And I also think too that helped out with some of the upsets. Like, oh shit, I really didn't see that guy beating that guy type of thing, you know. It's just like you might run into something you've never seen before, you're not prepared for it. Some of the funkier defenses too, 3-3-5 tight, some shit. I've seen people do that. I've seen people go heavy man across the board, you know. So being able to have a wide open game, the field is wider too, you can run more shit. It made for definitely an exciting brand of football to play. And I also think too that helped out a lot, like Ian was saying, with being able to play it over and over again, getting it 9 seasons. And again, the roster turnover is crazy. So I think that all helped last cycle.
I think God, I had a point in my head this whole time. Oh, in Madden and in NFL, at some point, it's going to be 3rd and short, and you're going to have to get a yard, and you're going to have to put your head down and get that yard, whether you're getting to the fullback, the Philly doing their tush push stuff. At some point in the NFL and in Madden, it's going to have to be that. College, you can live and die by whatever your scheme is. So even if it's 3rd and short and you're doing, if you're in the Mike Leach air raid, depending on what the box is, what how many guys are inside there, how many blockers you got, if you can match it up, then you can hand it off. But most of the time, you're going to live and die by that pass, whether it's getting the ball out of the QB's hands quick or taking a shot deep. But the variety is definitely something that is interesting to see across college, and how it was across for us as well. I don't think too many people played similarly. And as far as me bouncing around outside of the flexbone or the pitch mechanic nonsense that was early on that got patched, when I finally got to Wake Forest, I went on and bought a course of the coach, Clausen's his last name, of him teaching this course and how to block, how to run everything. What you're supposed to do, count in the box. If you can match the defenders in the box, then run the ball. If you can't, then you're throwing it to whatever the easiest throw is off of those RPOs, whether it's a slow mesh or a regular RPO. And then I just went on to the road for college football and just used Wake Forest and played against randoms just repeatedly, which helped out a lot. But then by the time, okay, stuff's getting a little stagnant. I had a good core of tight ends. I knew I could go out there with 2 tight ends, and I saw the Charlotte book, which 85% of the book is 2 tight ends, no huddle with the 2 tight ends. That was probably where my offense, that's where my offense started to pop, where I started being towards the top of the leaderboard for the nation in yards, whether it was running or passing and points and whatnot. My tight ends start to graduate. Okay, let's try this Leach Flexbone stuff. And I had Bacella, and he could scoot a little bit, had a good arm. And I had some power backs as well. So if I needed to get that yard or two in a run favorable box, I can get those yard or two. And then going into now with this extra season, I went heavy, recruited all kinds of running backs so I could run the Flexbone again. But adapting to, like we mentioned, adapting to what you have in-house, adapting to whatever play style you want to adapt to, it's definitely one of the things. And now, look, 26, we're going to have some new stuff. There's Tinkers to 2 of the Flexbone books, Army and Navy. There's a 3rd new team that IJ's going to do the right thing and, make sure that the book is available when we do our playbook draft. I'll take the silence as a yes. But look at the 26. What do you guys have anything brewing on the horizon that we aren't already aware of?
Far as what, like rules or
anything in as regards to the cycle? I mean, no, it's still a little. Most of the things will probably happen, if anything, once we get our hands on it and see what's what. But have you guys spoke about anything, bringing something new, rules, whatever the case, going into 26?
Yeah, we just we chopped it up last week about the rules, and that was the changes that we've made. We had I think we had went over maybe like 6 different things. Some of them didn't make it. TBH, if they will make it in the future. So we kind of already done that already. And then after that, like we said earlier, I mean, I'm not being biased. I just feel like with the way the cycle worked, our rule book just works. You know what I'm saying? There were people being a little aggro at the beginning. Why can't I recruit this? Why can't I recruit that? We're not going to have we're never going to be number 1 in the nation for recruits. And then, like, as we went on and we played, it was like, that just wasn't true. Like, we're going to recruit better than the computer. It worked out flawlessly. So I think that we're in a good spot rule book wise. Obviously we got the reveal show. I think we're like 168 hours away. So, but besides that, I really don't think we have too much on the horizon right now.
Speaking to that recruiting talk, I kind of, it slipped my mind, I'll say. But by the time we got to season 9 and the top 25 recruiting classes, probably 10 to 15 users in it, I think we made out okay. And even some of the smaller schools, quote unquote smaller schools, like myself, I think Valve recruited very well and had the talent to compete with some of most of the people that got to bigger schools that you would expect to see in that top 25. And I'm sure there's others that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. What do you got, IJ?
Yeah, no, I completely agree on the recruiting piece. I think really the biggest thing that came with recruiting, and I think people who may have been previously unfamiliar with NCAA games kind of found out is it's not necessarily about, you're only limited by so much, right? Like you said, somebody like Coach Val down there in Louisiana. But by the time that team was built up, that recruiting looked a lot different because that team had seen success. When you look at the factors of what the recruiting, um, words escaping me right now, but what the recruiting factors are, right? Like conference prestige is one. Like I'll be honest, one of the reasons that I jumped from Akron to Minnesota was because I knew, okay, conference prestige is going to get me a bump, which is going to help with some higher end recruits, right? There's a big difference recruiting for the Big Ten as opposed to the MAC. But even outside of that, like your coach prestige matters. Um, your coach stability matters. Whether or not you got, how long you stay with the school, whether or not your assistant coaches stay with the school. Your on-field success matters. The talent that you have on the team matters, as we found out looking at what is it? I think it was like the blue chip ranking. It's kind of part of what was looked at with like your pro potential. So like the better players you had, the better chance they had of going pro, the better, So all that goes into it. And I know, especially some of our newer guys have, talked about staying with their teams. That's viable. That is a viable option. It's not something where you have to jump to a P4 school in order to, be successful. Again, JP made it to the college football playoffs with Northern Illinois in the first season of this league, right? So it's not something where you need to make that jump to be successful. You can have a successful team, successful scheme, talent on your team. You can win games without jumping to P4. Moji won with Buffalo, right? We've seen people be successful with these teams, build up these teams without needing to jump. So I think that the more people get in tune with recruiting, and it took a little bit of time for us, definitely took a few seasons, but all paths are viable, and that's what makes this so fun, right? You can stay with your small school and build them up to be a competitor. I won't say a powerhouse because we only got so many seasons, but you can be a competitor. You can be a blue chip team, even in a G5 conference. I'm excited to see, knowing what we know now from cycle 1, who in cycle 2 says, you know what, maybe I'll build up this team because I'm better off going 6-7 years with I don't know, they're out of random school. I'm better off staying 6-7 years with Appalachian State rather than jumping in year 6 going to Tennessee because I'm only going to get 3 seasons with them, right? So then what does Appalachian State turn out to be by the end of season 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really interested to see what this cycle holds in terms of coach movement, because I know everybody was just, looking forward to it last cycle versus really developing and building teams.
And I mean, and there were some people, okay, maybe it was just one, that claimed that they didn't know how to recruit. And then we were 6-7 years in. And I love,
he is insane for that.
And I love, listen, I know he gets a lot of grief from people, some of it rightfully so. And I genuinely like Terry. But there's no way you get through, what was it, 6 seasons? 6 seasons and a job change, and he didn't know how to recruit?
Yeah, that boy was green.
That's
real green.
That was wild to find out.
I've actually
that was an all-timer day in the chat.
It was.
Yeah,
it was.
I kept up with his team after that. He actually started getting some 5-star recruits and shit. So I think he was being dead ass serious too.
And as he should at BYU. He should be getting 4- and 5-star guys at BYU.
Yeah, especially
my man just did not know how to recruit.
That is crazy.
It's insane.
Do you guys, with my limited 3 days inside of the beta, have any questions for me? Most of the stuff that I
think really
most of the stuff that I found, I ended up putting in chat anyways. But go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the biggest thing for me is the addition of all those sliders, which you did post in chat, and that's probably what has me the most excited because I look at games like college football and Madden versus something like a 2K. Like when you go into 2K and you're setting up my GM or my NBA, there are crazy amounts of sliders to really tweak the game to how you want to play. And so I'm really glad that we're getting that in college football 26 to really tune like what we want to see on the field. I think one of the biggest things, I go back to wear and tear, right? We have wear and tear sliders. There were times where you'd have a player run, a single snap and their wear and tear is already orange. And it's like, well, what the fuck did he do? Like, what the fuck happened here, right? So we can really tune these things to really fit like what we want to see on the field. Like, okay, you should be getting, this amount of wear and tear from this. You should be getting this amount of wear and tear from, a hit stick, or, this is how much run blocking should affect you on wear and tear, right? And so we really get to like mess with those things and really fit the game to how we like to see it play, in our original style. And to go along with that, also excited about the fact that, and I think Cave will agree with me here, is we got that slider for manual upgrades, right? Like you're going to take a hit if you decide to manually upgrade your player. And Warren, you can confirm this for me later, if possible, but I'm assuming that's probably like a coach setting, something you do like it.
It is a setting. The setting for that slider is in the regular settings, so I think you can.
Well, I mean, like the decision between automatic upgrades or manual upgrades.
Oh, I believe that is a coach setting, whether you do auto or manual. And
okay.
I know how much we were. And I know Cave can attest to this, how excited we were that upgrades in 25 were auto, and they just did what they did, even with the skill caps and all that, to where I know I didn't want anything to do with upgrading players. I wanted it to be as different from Madden as it could possibly be as far as that upgrade system.
Yeah.
The fact that they added it, and listen, add all the options that you want. Just make sure there's an option to turn on or off, or they know, EA and the people that are building this game, that they want it to be auto. People clamor because they want it to be manual, and they don't want it to venture into the where Madden is. With building people, and Madden's isn't even that bad because it goes right towards their build. You still kind of randomize what skills you're building up. It's not like back in the day where, I'm just gonna buy all this speed, I'm just gonna buy all this catching, whatever the case. But the penalty, I want to see who's gonna have the gall to whatever we set that slider at. And I'm sure it's going to be more than whatever the default is, because that's just how we do things. Who's going to have the gall to still go in there and manually upgrade things, even if you're taking a hit on those points that your guy is earning? Because out of the 32, I'm certain that not all 32 are going to auto upgrade. I know I'm going to auto upgrade. I need all the points I can get.
I'll tell you this much. Me and Cave both prefer auto upgrades, so it's going to be a hefty penalty no matter where we set it.
I think it has to be.
Yeah, no matter where we set it, it's not going to be 1-to-1. Again, the way that they're implementing it, especially with the slider, lets me know that they also know that auto upgrades are a thing that the community wants. And I'm sure there's part of the community that's also like, hey, I want to make sure, this player with 95 juke gets shifty, right? Or whatever the ability is.
Somebody like me is going to want to make sure, if I'm running a flex bone, I want to make sure that my QB has option king.
Correct. But see, we prefer the randomness of the development of players So like, yeah, you can take the risk to try and use those points to go buy Option King. You're going to get less XP doing so. Um, but just in general, and I'll speak for myself. I prefer seeing, I want to see what players turn into, and not really have so much of an impact on what I want them to be.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I want to recruit and bring in the archetypes that I want, and then I want to have the game them develop however they develop. So maybe my idea for a guy is to come in and be a bruiser, but then he's got 90 something speed as a bruiser, so then I might use him differently because of however he develops in the game, instead of how the thought I had of him bringing him in as a freshman to what he became as a senior may be different. And that piece of it, I really like that piece of it. I want it to be as hands off as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where we're at as well. So, like I said, we'll see what that slider looks like once we get our hands on the game. But just know there will be a penalty, no matter what we end up doing.
Cave, what about you?
I think you answered a lot of our questions yesterday. You did a great job at answering. And plus, I mean, we've gotten spoiled a lot with a lot of the leaks too from Twitter and everybody showing the gameplay. What I will say is, in comparison to from 25, because a lot of people are saying, I'm in a 2K league. Well, I don't play it anymore, but whatever. I'm in a community and they have their own college football league. One guy said it is different enough from 25 where he doesn't want to play 25 at all right now. Do you feel that way as well, playing the game, that it's so different? It's like it's kind of hard to go back a little bit. I'm a diehard, so I'm okay with, like, I played the game versus Longville in 26, and then right after that did my extra season game in 25. And is there a difference? For sure. It's immediately felt in the game. But not too much where I felt like I was shorting myself playing 25. I will say a very respected voice in the sports gaming community, and IJ knows because we frequently talk about it, but Mills on Twitch was back on 25 playing his online dynasty, and he's got Kent State. He's been going through different playbooks. He was in the generic air raid, struggling. He went to Kansas with this game and played one game, played well, played another game, was struggling again, and got to the point at the end of the stream to say, you know what? We might be done with college football because the beta for 26 is so good.
Okay.
Oh, love hearing that.
Yeah,
one thing I did have to ask, because I did one of this because there was a lot of talk about this before the beta even dropped. What is the speed like in comparison to last game? Because they said that they toned it down. Is it like tone it down to the point where it's Madden-ish, or is it just like it's just a more smoother experience?
So Madden in college Madden 25, college 25 felt very different with speed. College 25 felt very, very fast. Madden 25 felt very heavy. I think the beta brought college speed down a little bit, and that may even be just because I think they added the physics engine that was in Madden to college. So it's not as fast as 25. That doesn't mean that it's slow like Madden 25. And I think Madden 26 is going to be a tick faster than compared to Madden 25.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, cool. I was worried about that a little bit. I was like, nah, like it's college football. It's supposed to be open, fast. Like these are fucking 19, 20-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It is still very open and fast.
okay,
I've played a bunch of, on top of playing Longville, I played a bunch of randoms because there's 2 modes in there. There's Dynasty and then there's the Road to College Football Playoff. So I've played against randoms and I'm using a bunch of different teams. I'm using Army, I used Navy, I used Rice. I even used Ohio State in the game. Ratings or whatever, they're not any... The people aren't in the game yet. They're all generic names and essentially generic ratings. But fast guys still feel fast, even if the game itself feels a little bit slower. Is it noticeable? Yes, but it's not a detriment, and it's not going to hurt the experience. And all of the talk from the people that went down and played the game has been, if you like 25, you're gonna love 26.
oh, well, I think we good. Oh, last question.
Yeah.
I had to ask this. I know I said last question before. I'm a liar. I don't care. As far as, because there were talk about the plays in the playbook difference. I know you play with different teams. So I know I know you want NCAA heavy like us, so I know you kind of playbooks and all that shit.
Yeah.
Did you go through those? Did you see a difference in the playbooks? Is comparison the last game?
The playbooks that I've used in 25. I've looked at Army, I looked at Navy. Those were tweaked decently. They added some different versions of the flexbone. They've also added flexbone-like formations in pistol and gun, so where they'll have wingbacks there. Especially with the Rice playbook, which is totally brand new, where they have a lot of those pistol and gun flexbone wingback plays. There's a lot of new plays. There's a lot of new motions. There's a jet sweep that's in the Army book from the gun where the back motions from one side to the other to line up an empty, and then you run the jet. And then there's plays off of that to where they're doing that same motion and the QB does a counter. So the jet will come across left to right, and the counter for the QB is he'll fake it, and then he's going left. And then there's the same thing where they run that same motion, and it's the jet play action pass off of it. So they are adding stuff to books, new plays, new formations. Some of the books are a lot of the same. Like Ohio State's book's about the same. There may be some new stuff in there. I think I only used them once though. But no, the narrative that you saw online where they added a whole bunch of forms and a whole bunch of new plays, 100% accurate. And I think most books got a little bit of love, if not a lot of love. They did not pull. So Wake Forest and UNLV are going to have new offenses, but the duo, the go-go offense and the slow mesh offense are going to have their own playbook. That wasn't changed yet in the beta that I played. That may have been the case when they brought people down and played it at EA, because Mills said that the version that he played was newer than the version that they put in the beta. So I don't know. Those two teams specifically, Wake Forest and UNLV, are going to have different books that we haven't seen yet, to whatever their scheme is. But no, there's plenty of new stuff. It's not just a copy paste by any means. There's no insert reskin meme here. I think a majority of the teams got some love, and it varies between teams.
I'm good on the questions then. That's all I had so far.
Okay.
Everything else you already answered.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Oh, the other thing to look out for in the defensive adjustments, you can choose how you want your safeties to align, whether the depth or where the center point in between them is. So, like, if you want them to align a certain way, maybe favor the strong side of the passing formation, they're going to do that. If you want them to play closer to the box more frequently, you can do that. Twists and stunts are in the game, which you can add. I don't know if you can add it after you pick a play. I think you can. I haven't done that yet. But if you long press in the play call screen, a drop down will come up with how you want your twist to set up, whether it's the 2D tackles, the D end to D tackle. It might even include linebackers depending on what the play is. There's a lot of stuff. I haven't even tried to do the subbing your people on the fly yet. I haven't even done that yet. But there's a lot of stuff that to combat the no huddle stuff that we had to deal with some teams, as far as throwing something new at people or subbing people in and out, which I will enjoy.
Oh yeah, I definitely enjoy that too.
Guys, thank you for making some time. In a week and 30 minutes, we are going to know what teams we have for Cycle 2 RZNCAA. I am fired up. I am excited. Very much more excited for this. And I'm very excited for Madden too, because Madden's apparently gotten a lot of love with this development cycle for 26. So I'm very excited to get going over there as well. But this is, as the kids say, this hits different, we'll say. But thank you guys for carving out some time on a Sunday. And enjoy. And to you guys listening, we will see you in a week with the team reveal show. So you guys enjoy yourselves.